Hi church, I hope you're all keeping well and safe. Steve's asked if I would share my testimony with you again. I was a little bit reluctant at first to put my face out there on camera, but then I thought probably now's as good a time as any, as we're in such a challenging time. And some of the Bible verses really relate to what we're going through now, and really come up in sort of daily prayer as we're praying against all this that's going on. So I'm just going to quickly recap the things that went on in our life that sort of shook our family a little bit. Well, I say a little bit, it was quite a lot. After our second baby, Avery, was born in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer. It was in the brain, the liver, the lungs, down the spine, and in the lower part of the spine, in the sacrum. It had gone inside the bone. And there was an amazing doctor in Glenclwyd who discovered it was something called choriocarcinoma, which is a really rare type of cancer that develops during pregnancy. It starts in the placenta and it spreads throughout the body. But this one particular doctor came into my room as I was on the maternity ward at the time in Glenclwyd, and she asked if there's anything she could do. At this point, I'd been diagnosed with cancer, but no one knew what sort of cancer and how they were going to treat it. And the only thing that we could say to her was pray. So she went out of the room, she said, yes, she will do. And it was that sort of moment that we kind of thought, oh, she might pray, or she's just saying something to make us feel better. And then they decided that to get around, I was in quite a bit of pain. Where the cancer had gone into my spine, it hit my sciatic nerve. I'm not too sure how, or the sort of science behind it, but it was causing a lot of pain. So they decided to give radiotherapy to try and kill a bit of the pain, to then decide how they were going to treat the cancer, if they could treat the cancer. So as we were going down, the consultant had come running over saying, we think we know what this is. This is choriocarcinoma. So luckily they ground to halt to the radiotherapy, whisked us back up to the maternity ward, and then in comes this same doctor that we'd asked to pray. And the consultant came in and said it's because of her. She discovered what type of cancer this was. She's the one that we found out what it was, and we're going to send you to Sheffield. They're specialists in it. We're going to blue light you there now. And later on now, after having my treatment, I recently went back up to Glenclwyd and met with this doctor, and she said her and her family have been praying from that second onwards up until sort of present day, really, which was so encouraging. And it was quite an emotional time for us all to go back and meet with her and see how far I'd come after the treatment. It was really lovely to see her again. But coming back, we got to Sheffield, I think it was the 29th or 30th of November in 2018. Avery was 2 weeks old. I'd left her with Luke. Wesley was with Luke. Family were all rallying around as I just went straight up to Sheffield on my own. And then from then on, it was a almost 3-week stint in Sheffield. And it's really hard to pick out the blessings, because I'd be here forever sort of telling you everything that we were blessed with. But probably the first massive one was someone had blessed as my in-laws and Luke and the kids with a holiday cottage, so that they could stay up in Sheffield, so I could see the kids and they could see me every day. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been that long at all. It had been every now and again that they'd be coming up, and my in-laws came and they stayed with Luke and the kids for nearly 3 weeks straight in this tiny little holiday cottage in the middle of Sheffield. And yeah, it was just such a blessing. And not only the fact that obviously I got to see the kids every day, Luke came in and we prayed constantly. Roland and Sheila, my in-laws, had come in and they'd prayed constantly. And it was just nice to be able to fill that little hospital room with God. And it was just so important to me that that's how it was. But around the time that I was diagnosed with cancer, Roland my father-in-law had a word from God, and it was John 11, first thought, and it was, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God. After I had that, I was then diagnosed with cancer, so it was really clear that that was for me and for that situation. And we've really grasped onto that. Every day we've prayed and mentioned that Bible verse. Every night when we pray and we do our daily readings, we speak that word over our family and over me, because it's been so significant and it's been so true. The consultant who came in and dealt with my case said it was supposed to be 7 to 12 months sort of treatment time, but it ended up, I did it all in 4. It was grueling, and I'm so glad it wasn't 7 to 12 months, but it was such a relief to know that I was home after 4 months of treatment. After the first 3 weeks of being in Sheffield, I went back weekly and did 2 to 3 days in Sheffield and had my treatment, and then came back home. But yeah, it was, I mean, there was so many blessings. Coming back to that holiday cottage, we were blessed again by, they didn't charge the full amount that it was supposed to cost. We were blessed financially, which covered the cost of it anyway, plus more. We were able to pay for petrol, for food, for many other things that we needed, travelling to and from Sheffield. Luke was blessed with time off paid whilst I was poorly. He was able to be at home, look after the kids. And even though it was such a horrible time that I felt so unwell, it was really nice that we were both there, able to share those times with the children, seeing all of the milestones that they hit. And you know, obviously Avery was so little, Luke was there to see everything. He saw her sort of crawling, doing her weaning, all those little things. So even though it was such a really difficult time, we'll always remember those moments of Avery growing up, being together and being able to see them. But yeah, some of the other Bible verses that we were given and that we received was, one of them was Exodus 14:14, and it was, the Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. And I think that's quite fitting with now as well. I think we all get quite anxious, especially myself, with the unknown, and at the moment nobody really knows what's going on or when we're going to be able to go out and do normal things again and get together as a church. But we know that we've got God on our side, and He is fighting that battle that we're facing at the minute, as global really, but as a country and as a little town, we are facing something that's quite difficult, not knowing how we're going to achieve it or what we're doing. But it says there in Exodus that the Lord will fight for you. It's not He might fight for you, it's He will, and He is, and He has done already so far. And I can tell you firsthand that I know now He was there in that whole awful time that we experienced as a family, that He was there through every single second of it. I haven't got time to share it all with you, all those tiny little things, and they might not seem significant to other people, but to us they were super significant. One of the minor ones is our gate blew down in the wind and snapped all the pole, and somebody came out in the pitch black, freezing cold, raining weather and fixed the post that the gate was holding on to. And it was just, that alone I'll never forget. That was a church community spirit and amazing. So thank you, Murph, for fixing our gate. I will never forget it. But yeah, the Lord will fight for you. And a moment in the thing with choriocarcinoma is it's not a clear, this is when your treatment starts, this is when it finishes. It's, you will go ahead with vigorous chemotherapy until your HCG hormone level comes down. So as I started my treatment, it was in the 42 something thousand, and after my first treatment it shot up to 200 something thousand, and it was, you're going to keep going until that number comes to 2 or below. So each week we were holding out for these numbers, that they're going to come down, they're going to come down, they're going to come down. And one week they stuck, and it was quite near like the teen numbers, so we were so close to getting it to 2, and I was exhausted, I felt poorly, and I just cried. They stuck, and they said if it sticks we're going to have to considered different treatment plans, possible surgery, and other options. So all I sensed then was a delay. I was going to be there longer. I was going to have more things poked and prodded and done, and I felt really weak and vulnerable. I was in Sheffield in a different place, different area, without anybody that I knew, family, friends, or anything. I was just on my own getting all this information. And I remember just crying and phoning Luke. And Luke was like, "What are you phoning me for? Get some worship on. You need to pray about it." And he's such a fighter when it comes to things like that. And I'm such a girl, I just cry. So I did exactly what he said, hung up, put some worship on, and sung the song, "This Is How I Fight My Battles." Well, I didn't quite sing it, I just cried. And then that's when God said to me, he said, "You're asking me and asking me and asking me to drop these numbers, and I've heard you, and heard you, and heard you, and heard you. You need to stop asking me. I'm already doing it." And so that's when that verse came, and it was, "I need to be still." And a few people had mentioned to me, "Be still." And it really stuck. So I stopped praying about it. I mean, every prayer that we prayed, we gave thanks first, and I think that's really encouraging in every part of life. Always thank first before you pray or ask for anything. And then the week after, they came really, really low, and I was able to start my 8-week consolidation period, which was like the end of my treatment. And it was just such a reassurance that God gave me that clear word, and he proved it to me. And from then on, I just knew he had his, well, I knew from the beginning, but from then on I was really confident that God had his handle on it. And it was because I was such a high risk, my number, I think it's, if your numbers are so much higher than a certain number, then you become an extreme high risk category. If you've only got low HCG numbers, then you're just a low risk category. Because I was such a high risk, it heightened the risk of it coming back. So the first year was always quite it was a tricky year as to whether it was going to come back. So it was monitored by regular bloods, samples, urine samples, and then I've just passed my 1 year clear treatment of cancer, 1 year clear of cancer period, and I'm no longer in that extremely high risk, even though I do have to stay in the house for 12 weeks to avoid getting this coronavirus, because I am still in that sort of high risk category in that sense, but my chances of getting choriocarcinoma have reduced massively. And I remember the specialist in Sheffield saying, "Are you nervous about when you come to send your bloods off and your urine off? Are you nervous about your results? Are you eagerly awaiting them?" A lot of people are sort of twitching by the phone, waiting to hear. And I never was. I was never worried. It was just send them off. I know they're going to be fine. But it's really good that I was able to trust God and understand. And I think that was what mentally got me through it, is knowing that God's got a handle on this, because it was something that I could never handle myself. I needed God to intervene and completely take over and hold on to that steering wheel, for my sake, for Luke's sake, and for the kids' sake as well. And it was, we were able to sort of embrace it really and pull the positive out of it. I'm not saying it was a very nice experience and that I enjoyed it and that I want to go through it again, but it is something that I'm glad I experienced, to be able to get closer to God in it, and get closer to Luke, and get closer to the kids. Get quite emotional thinking about it, but it's all good, and it's really important that you do trust God in these situations. And I think in the darker situations you do see him brighter, but you do have to look for him. It's very easy to sort of let the world close in over you, but that's a really bad move. You really need to look for that light, and trust God. And once you've fixated on him, be still and trust in him, and trust and listen for his word. And one of the last verses, there was so many verses, but one of the last verses was Philippians 1 verse 6, and it was, God didn't bring you through God didn't bring you this far to leave you. And that was another one that was really significant, that I knew God's preparing me really for something else. Obviously we've sort of done various things in church work and things like that, and I'm not saying that I know exactly what God's got planned for me, but I do think that He's equipped me with this to be able to go out and do something else and use it to help other people. So yeah, it is exciting to know that God is equipped me with something so big, to know that something bigger is happening. And you never know, when church starts up again, that maybe something will come of it then that I'll be able to share to even more people. But until then, it's a virtual share, a virtual testimony. I hope I've been really clear, that you've been able to understand what I'm talking about. And most of you already know the story, because a lot of you sort of shared this journey with us, and you were praying with us and constantly being updated and checking in on us and sharing with us, which was incredible. Our church family was just amazing. And it is amazing, and it's amazing to see what everybody's doing now. I'm loving all the messages, even though we can't keep up with them all on Facebook. But please keep sharing videos, more testimonies and more good news. The world needs to be filled with lots of good news. Thank you. We're looking forward to seeing you all soon.